Welcome to Analyzing DaggerHeart. This series is for those who already have a basic understanding of the rules and want to make the most of their character choices, both building characters and playing the game. I'm a professional analyst, and I've been a GM for over 30 years. Whether you're here to vanquish foes, win the heart of your beloved, or discover untold mysteries, welcome. Unlike traditional games, in DaggerHeart there isn't a fixed initiative. So old D&D concepts such as damage per round don't make any sense. Instead, if you fail or if you roll with fear, the GM gets a move. He could just cause you stress. Or she might spotlight the boss monster and smack your friends. Worse yet, the GM can spend the fear to spotlight a second monster or unleash the boss's big attack. Thus, not only do we want to be successful, we also want to minimize the number of moves that the opponents get. If we roll with fear, the GM gets a move and also a fear token that they can spend on another move. So they effectively get 2 moves. If we fail with hope, the GM gets 1 move. The result is that a bonus, such as helping your friends to give them an advantage, is more significant than in D&D. Not only does the advantage help your friend succeed, it also minimizes the chance of a counterattack. I simplify this into a ratio. The number of moves the GM gets divided by our chance of success. GM moves per success, or MOPS for short. When this ratio is low, our successes will not be overwhelmed by the monster moves and attacks. MOPS, the number of moves the GM gets for every success we have, drives the action economy of DaggerHeart. Our basic chance to roll with fear is about 46%. A bit better than half because criticals work in our favor. We have a 50-50 chance of succeeding if we need to roll a 14 on the die. Unfortunately, while we are only succeeding half the time, the other half the GM gets a move, and they also get 2 moves when we roll with fear. As a result, the GM will get almost 2.4 moves for every success. Here on the screen, you see the number of GM moves per success, based on what you need to roll. So if the task has a difficulty of 15, and you have a +2 from your attribute and a +2 from your experience, you need to roll an 11 on the die. Things start to get really tough when you need to roll higher than a 15. If you're trying to impress a full theater based solely on your natural charm, it's really important to get help from your teammates. In most cases, a character built for combat against a tough opponent will need to roll between 10 and 12. For example, if a level 1 warrior with a greatsword has a +2 strength, they'll need an 11 for a basic attack against a tier 1 boss like a cave ogre. 11's a good anchor point to think about. If you need an 11, that means almost 1.5 GM moves per success. I made this graph so I could figure out the impact of various in-game choices. The Warrior's No Mercy feature, which costs 3 hope, gives a +1 to attacks until the next rest. With this feature, we need only roll a base of 10, which works out to about 1.25 GM moves per success. Thus, this feature will improve our MOPS by 11% until our next rest. However, unless you're John Wick and you have to kill dozens of bad guys before you nap, there are probably better ways to spend hope. Using your experience costs a hope and will usually give a first level character a +2 to their roll. This is almost never worth it at this level, because spending the same hope to help another character will add a +D6, which will improve our teammates' MOPS by 35%. The most dramatic improvement is a tag team roll, which costs 3 hope but lets you choose the best of the 2 dice rolls. As a result, not only are you more likely to succeed, but you're substantially more likely to roll with hope. The calculation here requires a computer, but for rolls against basic bosses, tag team will improve your MOPS by a whopping 140%. And your team is pretty likely to gain 2 hope to compensate for the 3 you spent. This only affects 1 action, but it is so effective that it's almost always worth looking for opportunities for a great tag team. Unfortunately, or fortunately for the health of the big bad, you can only initiate a tag team once per session. For me, The most consistent use of hope is to help a teammate with an important role, at least until high levels when your experiences might be +4 or higher. When I look at other features and options that cost hope, I'm always going to use help as a baseline for comparison. All right, now that we've got a look at the baselines, we can start the next video with some tier ranking.